Good morning, everybody. It's Jillian. Yes, I just woke up. I wanted to cover this portion of how action potential, I'm not even going to say Jilly Juice, because Jilly Juice is one of many action potentials that are out there. Jilly Juice is a type of liquid electricity, 5G, viruses, the grid, electronics, different conductors in your environment. Well, affect all the foreign objects in your body. So it's interesting. My dog, she has a microchip. She also has scar tissue. Um, I have a feeling that the microchip, it's working its way out. I can actually feel the scar tissue that used to be deep, like under her belly when she had two different operations. One was to neuter her, the other one was to cut off some kind of like cancer or tumor a long time ago. And so actually I could feel that scar tissue moving. There's a bubble on the back of her head that did actually, there was a bubble from like a while ago that released and then scabbed over and then was okay. And then I think there's some new variants in the environment, whether it's a new virus, electricity. Um, yeah, jelly juice is all part of it, right? Jelly juice is just food. And so the body is working something out of her system. We've been getting exposed to different variants because my husband goes out there and we don't really go out too much. I think, actually, no, I did. I went out this weekend and I blew my nose like early this morning. And so I felt something. Um, and so my dog felt something too. And so this is what to expect, not only on the J juice, but anytime you're around action potential. If you have foreign objects in your body, whatever they are, if it's too big for the body to purge, it's going to be either wrapped up in so much scar tissue, or if it's small enough, it'll work its way out of the body. No, it's not going to just spontaneously just leave the body. The body works stuff out. Once it heals and seals and it doesn't have that need for that foreign object, it's going to find the nearest exit point, whatever that is. Okay? And so that's the body saying, okay, now I'm finally activated to be able to do what I'm supposed to do, and everything that you've done to patch me up is not going to be necessary anymore. And so that's the thing that you have to also be aware of when you're not only doing the Jilly Juice, but now with the grid being turned up, is that you're going to feel all the different implants in your body that are going to be dealt with as far as the body healing and sealing, and then the body's going to figure out what to do with this extra material, the excess. Okay? And that's the thing. That's the reason why, not that, but the reason why you're able to hold on to these implants is because your body has been atrophied to such an extent that it's able to carry those foreign objects until you pass away. I mean, why do they tell people with heart conditions, stay away from salt? Why tell people from heart conditions or any kind of conditions that have specific implants that your diet should be only this? It can't be anything that's going to be too, it's going to activate your immune system. Or, yeah, when someone has a transplant, why are they telling them, oh, you can't eat this, you can't eat that? Because the immune system is going to activate and try to, I won't say attack it, but I think over time, uh, the body is going to want to regrow the heart or regrow the liver. I don't know if you have a liver transplant, but regrow like the lungs. And so you're going to feel pain in the area where you have that transplant or implant. And the medical community doesn't want to go through that type of issue. So that's when they still your diet to where they keep it only to very benign foods that doesn't activate your immune system. Okay? And so that's why I say, when you have a transplant, and you're doing the J juice, you know, it's the body is not going to shut itself down in order to live. The body is going to use whatever's in place until there is no usage for that implant or transplant anymore. And so that's all, but then pain is going to be the indicator to let you know that that's what's going on. But forget agility just for a minute. That's just what's going to happen with any food out there that's going to activate your immune system. That's going to activate your agonist antibodies and your antagonist antibodies. And so, yeah, I'm sure some vaccinations are not going to be appropriate for those with implants or those with transplants. I don't say implants, but transplants. Okay, so there's definitely, oh, and there might be lower, I have to look it up and see if transplant patients are recommended not to take a vaccine because of the action potential. But yeah, I haven't talked about this in a while because I'm not trying to give anyone like a false sense of security that, oh yeah, JJ's going to do this, and that, you know. But that's just a natural thing that would happen when a body is going through action potential, is that yes, the implants and the transplants are going to be eventually not useful anymore, because the body is going to eventually regrow the organs and the ligaments and all the things that the transplants and the implants were used for. And so yes, they won't be necessary. And then the body's going to want to work it out. So I'm watching my dog's body go through its evolutionary stage of not needing probably that microchip. Well, yeah, she doesn't need it anyways, but I think that's what that bubble on top of her head is. The body is trying to get rid of that microchip. And yeah, I'm sure that anytime something in the brain or in the back of the neck works its way to parts of the body to where it then turns into a boil, it does affect different algorithms. So when you're getting like boils, or you're getting pus coming to the surface, or things that were way deep coming to the surface, like a lady a long time ago, her name was Beth. She was part of my group in 2017. She was in an accident a long time ago, and where she had glass like in her face that was embedded so deep, and they couldn't get it all out, but they allowed her body to scar over. When she was doing the J juice, because that is action potential, it could have very well happened if she was around electricity. Okay, a lot of electricity. But anyways, she was mentioning on the protocol that she felt now little pieces of glass coming out of her face, because the body was finally able to push out the action potential in my protocol, as well as probably, the food supply and the electrical grid, helped the immune system release what did not belong, those foreign objects. Okay? And so, yeah, that's one of the things that all of you got to be aware of. If you have animals that are doing the J juice, as well as you, and you have implants and transplants, any kind of electricity backed up by the food supply and the ability to heal and seal and all of that stuff, yeah, it's going to activate a regrowth in the areas that were atrophied. Okay? So that's where regrowing limbs and organs and vital organs and arms and legs and all that stuff, that is possible. But you got to deal with the pain. You got to deal with all the things that go along with the body now finally, activated correctly without a synthetic activation. Because, yeah, vaccines and all the different therapeutics out there are used to synthetically activate you, but there really isn't the cushion behind, you to support that activation process. And so, yeah, you're losing on the back end. And so that's, what thermodynamics is that the energy that is triggered requires energy to sustain it. And you have to have energy on the front end and the back end to be able to be supported correctly. Okay? And so it's just interesting. So I'm watching that as it happens, and I'm watching my own stuff, and I had stuff come to surface. Somebody, did a testimony where they had operations or things that happened way long time ago, and then as soon as they did a bunch of J juice, the same successive events that happened were something required a surgery and then something required something else happened, like things came to surface and they saw that same scenario while on the Jejus come to surface because the body's healing those two areas and those two things simultaneously. And so, yes, electricity as well as Jejus, which is basically liquid energy, will cause the body to trigger the immune system. And immune system deals with growth and it deals with atrophy. And the atrophy is based upon, you don't want to have your arm going on like 10 miles long. So yes, if the design of your body is 2 arms, 2 legs, and it has to be able to grow proportional to the usage. Okay? So the giants of the earth a long time ago, they had an overtime evolution of being diminutive. What will cause them to die off and then not be able to bear like giant children? Well, we have basketball players that are 7 or 8 feet tall. Were they the giants of the earth? Well, we will never know really like how giant a person can be when we're stilting somebody's growth. We're atrophying their growth through biotechnology and then the second law of thermodynamics, which is entropy, because we haven't taught people to heal and seal and to deal with their predispositions and symptoms in a way that is going to evolve them, not devolve them. So I'm thinking that, yeah, the giants of the earth, when they mixed in with man, that the man's genetics took over. And then they killed off all the giants. So that took them out of the gene pool. The food supply changed. The atmosphere changed. And so, they're like, well, aren't there aliens? I mean, I think we're all somewhat of a hybrid of the universe. Okay? And the data from the viruses and all the different, the microbiome and the changes just on Earth have evolved every single piece of biodiversity. And the atmosphere supports that. And then the food supply and then how you deal with your symptoms will also determine how biodiversity evolves, and then reproduces. And so there was a picture that showed like 5 generations of a person, like right now in their 30s, they just got married, and then their parents and the parents' parents and the parents and the grandparents and the great-grandparents. I mean, that's every single generation is worth so much money, because that's how your life insurance is determined, is how much you're probably able to produce based upon your potential and then your, the family that you're born into. So if you're born into a very high level family and the average annual salary is like, 300,000, then that baby's life insurance as they get older, they'll be worth a whole lot of money. I mean, so your life insurance kind of tells you how much you're worth if you were to die and how much you could potentially get to cover a certain amount, because and you're basing it off of what are you trying to cover, mortgage, expenses, all the different assets that are financed. I mean, and so, yeah, so if you want, to insure someone for $1 million, you're going to pay out the nose. But if they haven't never made $1 million, then you're paying a whole lot of money that's more than what you can afford to get $1 million from the death of someone that really has never made $1 million. And so every generation is worth so much money. And the reason why, because it's action potential, it's the earning potential. And so, yeah, so reproducing and then innovating through immune triggers, and then evolving them through innovation, yes, has caused us to be very, very, very not only expensive but worth a whole lot. Okay, so I don't know where I got off on that tangent, but I don't know. I mean, I just wanted to let you know about foreign objects, and implants, transplants, any action potential. The body is going to want to work its way out, have it work its way out. And then if it's backed up by the right, if you're healed and sealed, and it's backed up by the food supply and all that, and you're dealing your ability to deal with the symptoms, yeah, you'll watch those little implants. Now I'm not saying they're boob. Sometimes if you have boob implants, well, the body's going to be surrounding it with cartilage, and eventually, little bits and pieces going to break up, and it's going to work its way out of your system. Okay? And you might feel pain, yeah. So, but if you have if you have stents and screws in your body, and your body finally is able to regrow, and you're managing that pain, maybe those stents and screws work its way out, whether it becomes a bubble on your skin that's going to pop eventually, or it's going to work its way through your, who knows, come out your nose, come out of your butt. Who knows how the body is going to find a way to work its way out. Or eventually rises to the surface, and it becomes like a growth that then turns into something that's sensitive, and then it'll close up. Okay? So, I'm just saying, if you have all these, if you have implants and transplants and stents and screws and whatever, that's what you got to look forward to. Not just on the J juice. J juice, yeah, it's a given. That's action potential backed up by the food supply. But also the electricity in the air. But the thing is that you haven't healed and sealed, so you'll get the benefit of action potential, but you won't get the benefit of longevity. Because any type of action potential that is not backed up correctly is going to activate your immune system to work double time. I've been feeling it the last week, and I've been seeing some crazy stuff, like I said the other day, about seeing, I'm watching now videos on Nostradamus, okay? Because who's to say that energy during that time of his days, he wasn't able to see stuff. Now, me seeing a frame of a house yesterday, am I foretelling a future event? Okay, like the second floor, am I foretelling that there was a fire? Because it was long black slats that I could see through. Well, it wasn't like it was from, I don't know. So electricity is going to alter a lot of reality, and it causes activation in the immune system. But you better have then the right food supply and deal with your symptoms correctly for it to work to your benefit. Okay? So, again, you're going to have to deal with your pain of the body evolving and potentially releasing the excess and the implants and the transplants when they're not deemed usable anymore, because a body has finally been able to work independently on its own. And that's the whole point, is that your body is not dependent upon biotech. Your body is not dependent upon anything out there except for the food supply, and that's it. The body can actually survive on the food supply without being tweaked and twizzled and supplemented, okay, by anything out there in the holistic allopathic. Because that's what caused us to be where we are in the first place, because people have been so dependent on somebody tweaking them and then expect to die someday. And so that's how easy it is to manipulate a body and make it very diverse, and maybe make it like superhuman for a short amount of time. Because yes, people expect to die, so yeah, those manipulations can take for 20 years, and then people make money off those mutations. They make money off of those synthetic variations of their immune system and their hormones. So, that's some crazy sideshow shit. So I don't really hold too much, I'm not impressed with anyone that is really mature at a young age. I'm not impressed by those that, that they put in the papers. Oh yeah, this 7-year-old has finally passed college in like 6 months. And I'm like, you know how easy it is now that they can go and do a CRISPR gene editing? But then that kid is going to have a very short, they're going to be exploited for their knowledge as just this person that is being, how would I even say it? They think that the kid's like something so extraordinary. No, they're biomanipulated. You can have kids that are 12 that were matured so quickly from biotech and then programmed to be all inspirational about the freaking climate. And then they're thrust out there in the limelight, being shown that they're like some visionary child. No, they're just biomanipulated, and then they were programmed. So yeah, kids are great, kids are beautiful, but so are freaking adults. But you're going to see them thrusting kids out there, and even parents saying, oh, my kid's so special. Yeah, all kids are freaking special. You happen to have the genetics where the vaccinations and all the different gene editing that was happening, or maybe you bought a designer kid. You bought all the genetic manipulations. They already had prototypes out there. They saw how they acted, with all the different influences, and they held up pretty well. And so, yeah, so there are even families out there that'll buy genetically manipulated children. I mean, yeah, look at the stars out there. There's some pretty beautiful children. Look at Frederick Eklund. He's out of, millionaire, was it $1 Million Listing? Beautiful, beautiful man. And so is his partner. Kids are freaking gorgeous. Well, yeah, that's some designer children for you. There are designer kids everywhere, you guys. Everywhere. And so, it's fun to look at them, but then they're going to be a flash in the pan. Because, yes, for you to keep those designer genetics, you can't alter the programming, okay? Jelly juice and electricity will, not just electricity, well, yeah, jelly juice and electricity, both jelly juice and electricity will alter the programming. You will override the programming with jelly juice protocol. But there are people out there that will buy programmed children. The vaccines are a type of programming that some people will take to, others will not. And yes, hindsight will be 2020, 20 years later when we see all the side effects of all the synthetic manipulations. But some won't last that long. Some are just going to be like, they're already on their last legs. They've already been diagnosed with cancer disease and chronic illness. Maybe they have 10 years, if that. And so, yeah, so when jelly juice is purging out foreign objects over time, working its way through the skin or through the system, that's overriding somebody else's programming, like a microchip, like an implant, like a transplant. Eventually that transplant is not going to be useful anymore because the body regrew the major vital organ. And yeah, you're going to feel pain. And you might feel heart attacks too. Because that's the body trying to now regrow. So yeah, it's telling you the world's going to be very different. You're going to have programmed people that are taking part in biotech, and then you're going to have people that are like on the jelly juice that are very what you call organic, that is able to be able to back up their body correctly, still take on some of the programming, but not allow it to dictate and then destroy them through backdoor triggers. Those are not on J-Juice will take on the programming, have a very temporary, amazing life, maybe, and then they will be triggered out of existence because the backdoor triggers will trigger them because of their predispositions, such as heart issues, lung issues, cancer. Cancer is the body at a deficit, and then growth happening in one area or two areas faster than the body can handle. So yeah, anyone that gets cancer is because there's a very imbalance. Well, their body's at a deficit. Anyone that has cancer in the family, no matter what, has a deficit of growth potential in that genetic line. And so yes, that's going to be passed down from generation to generation until you actually can redistribute the growth process to where it can happen evenly, not be so condensed. So yeah, I mean, we're learning a bunch of stuff. And so, the big C word is because people are at a deficit. So anyways, the whole thing with the foreign objects to be expected, and yes, your animals. I would suggest don't get animals that are microchipped. I suggest you get an animal that you can train and have on the J juice with the food supply, and and have it over time, those imbalances in the animals be released from the body. Because the reason why animals have to be microchipped, because people don't take care of their animals. Their animals want to run away all the time. And so the only way they keep track of their animal is if they put something in their tracking mechanism, because they don't have control over their kids and their own life, much less their animal. And so that's why they do the microchips, because it's a backup for those that are really just that absent-minded and let their animals just go. I don't understand how people lose their animals. People are like, oh yeah, they're putting on all over Facebook. Yeah, my animal is they got out somehow. So if you find this dog or that dog, I'm like, I don't even have a fence in my yard. When I first got my dog Sugar, I had her on a leash every time I went out the front yard in my other house. And so, and then my husband and his friend, when I wasn't around, or when they, and they had Sugar, they tested to see if Sugar would run away. And so they let her out in the front. They see it. They tested to see if she would go out into the street. And I freaked out because I'm like, oh my God. And like, I don't want to be one of those that lose their dog and say, oh, my dog ran away, and if you find it, please, I'm never going to be one of those people. And so, but now, now I figured out that she can be out in the front yard. She can be out in the backyard. We have no fence except for like maybe about 3/4 of the yard. And she doesn't run away because she's so balanced that she has no reason to leave. If animals run away, it's because they have issues with that family and their own biochemical issues. If you have an animal that really is a runner, then you basically got a designer dog. You got a dog that really is just more of an asset to your house, but not so much as a family member. And I hate to say it, but that's how I see it. And so yeah, so Sugar, when she has to go outside, she goes down the steps and she does her peeing. She knows her boundaries in the yard. She does her thing. She goes and does her little, her walking the perimeter, chasing the rabbits out of the yard. And then when she's done peeing and pooing and exploring and making sure everything is okay, she goes right up onto the deck and into the house. She has no need to leave my home because she knows this is probably the best place she's ever going to be, because the world is scary out there. People are scary out there. The world is scary. She has no business being roaming on her own. Okay? And so, yeah, and so now, since I got her from the pound, I know that microchip is working its way out. I know the scar tissue that, because they were cutting off the tumors and they had to spay and neuter her or whatever. And so I know that's working its way. Actually, I could feel the scar tissue right under one of her nipples. Okay? Before it was like deep, under her belly, and you can feel, where they did the incision under the skin. And you can see the scar tissue on top of the skin, but that's like all smoothed over. It's all nice white belly. But I could feel the knot of the scar tissue working its way somewhere. I don't know where it's going to be, purged out, but eventually it's going to be gone. I don't know if she'll poop it out or if it's going to come through as liquid, I don't know. But I'll be watching it to see. And so, yeah, she's going through her own morphine and evolving. So, yeah, the bodies are going to be, definitely we're going through some very black and white situations right now with people who are CRISPR edited, designer babies, designer adults, and designer children. And we have people on the J juice that will take on the evolution, but are not going to die from it and not be completely like so extreme where their brain is so smart, or like some of these designer babies have the distribution of beauty, and maybe they'll be smart, but only smart in one area, but they'll be so insulated in their very high echelon world. Well, they'll have bodyguards and they'll have the best medicine, the best whatever that they'll be able to maintain for a certain amount of time, and then one day they won't. But yeah, they'll have their careers and they'll be all like, oh, this person is so famous, this person is so successful, and this and that. Blah, blah. Well, yeah, they've been groomed for it. Okay, so now you don't have to, rely on someone else grooming you for anything. Now with the J Juice, you can groom yourself for inventions, for ideas, for stories, for things that you want to help promote humanity or advance humanity in such an advanced way. You don't need outside forces, because then you will have the wherewithal to motivate yourself into whatever you see there needs to be, a solution to some kind of problem. And so yeah, Jelly Juicers will be the solution oriented people at some point when they finally get their body, mind, and spirit aligned. But it's a long time coming because a lot of distractions out there. 7 billion people, and some people are still stuck in corporate world, churning for the man, but that's okay. At some point, there's not going to be a need for those types of people or for those industries, and so you're going to have to then redirect your energy. All right, I'm going to go and drink some coffee and do my thing, but I just wanted to say all that. And I got a lot to write. All right, bye.